Hello, my name is Vicki Henley, and if you haven't had a chance to visit my channel yet, my videos are about adoption, all about adoption. Whether it's you're in the beginning stages, you're in the process of adopting, you've already adopted and you're trying to figure out how to deal with all the ups and downs and the frustrations. So how am I qualified to share that information with you? Well, my husband and I have 3 children who we have welcomed into our home through the miracle of adoption, and many different ways adoption. We've had international, we've done foster care, we have open and closed adoption, semi-open, so a wide variety of things. We have special needs with our children. So I've got a couple of other videos that I've already shared about the different types of adoption. So if you haven't got a chance, then go and look at those, and be sure to subscribe and click the little bell so you'll get notifications of my further videos. So today I'm going to talk to you about questions you need to ask yourself if you are thinking about adoption, whether you be a married couple or a single person. If you're thinking, we've wanted to do that for a long time, but you're not sure if now is the right time or if that's even the right choice for you. Well, I've got some questions that you can ask yourself. And when you go through these questions, it will really help give you a better idea of whether or not adoption is the path you should go and if now is the right time. So let's get into those questions. So question number 1 you should ask yourself is, why do I want to adopt? So you may be saying, well, we want to add a child to our family or another child to our family. Well, you need to go a little bit deeper than that. So are you considering adoption because you feel it's your last option? Now, I know that infertility and miscarriages are very, very painful things to go through. I dealt with infertility myself, and it was very emotional, very painful, emotionally and physically. But before I could be ready to adopt, I had to go through the grieving process. And I highly recommend that you go through that first. Allow yourself to grieve. Allow yourself to deal with those physical and emotional issues that you're dealing with. Until I could heal emotionally and physically, I was not truly ready to adopt. And because I knew that no child deserved to feel second best, feel like they were a last option or a second choice for me. So make sure you allow yourself to go through that grieving process. Also, are you feeling pressure from anyone else? Whether it be, even a spouse can make you feel pressured. Maybe the spouse is all gung-ho for adoption. You're not quite sure yet. Don't allow a spouse, whether it be a wife or a husband or another member of the family or friends, don't let anyone pressure you into doing something that you aren't sure about yet. So don't allow that. Are you feeling obligated? Maybe you've heard of a child that needs a family, or maybe there is even a family member that is needing someone to take them. If you're thinking, well, nobody else is going to take them, so we need to. That's definitely not the kind of thoughts to go into when welcoming a child into your home. Because, this is a lifelong commitment. And you may think, well, but they're family. True, but what's to say that you are the only person that can do that? And if you do want to do that, make sure your mind is in the right place first. But before you go through that, for your sake, for your emotions, as well as the child. Now, if you're saying, I've got so much love to give and I want to give that love to a child, I want to open my home and open my heart to love a child for the rest of their life. Now, that is the reason that you should adopt. That is what's going through your mind, then that's a good answer. So go through all those little parts of that, why do I want to adopt? Now, secondly, are you and your spouse in agreement? That kind of goes a little bit back to a part of number 1, is making sure you and your spouse are in agreement, number 1, about adopting in the first place, and also about how you will raise a child, about how will they be educated? How will you tell them about being adopted? How will you share their heritage with them? How will you discipline? What are your plans with discipline? When you go through a home study process, they are going to ask questions like that. So it's important to be prepared and make sure that you and your spouse are on the same page with that. Make sure other members in your household are okay, and that you are okay with having a child that is not biologically connected to you. You may think, well, how would anybody even think about going to an adoption if they weren't okay with that? Well, you may be okay with that, but make sure other children in the family, I know ultimately it is a parent's decision, but adoption, when they do a home study, they're going to talk to everyone in the family, everyone that lives in the house. So they're going to talk to you, your spouse, as well as the other children in your home to see how they feel about having another child coming into the family through adoption. Also, check, with grandparents and aunts and uncles. I have friends whose parents did not accept their adopted child. They treated their biological grandchildren different. And I'm so thankful that my family did not do that. They have welcomed all of my adopted children just as if I had given birth to them. But unfortunately, and sadly, there are some families that cannot say that. So make sure that everyone is going to be accepting of that. And I'm not saying don't adopt because somebody's not going to accept them. I'm saying just be prepared for that and make sure you're ready for that ahead of time. Okay, next question. Can we provide for another child, whether it be in a first child or adding with children that you already have? Can you provide financially? Like, have you got good health insurance in place? Are you set enough financially that you can care for the needs of another child physically? Because especially if you're considering a child with special needs, having good health insurance ready and to take on another child. But even without special needs, all the expenses that go into adding another child to your family. And even though you say non-special needs, that you don't want a special needs, just like a birth child, you never know when something's going to happen. All three of my children, we went in with the thought that they were not going to be special needs, but needs crept up as they got older. Everything from dyslexia to dysgraphia, dyscalculia, ADHD, sensory processing disorder, emotional dysregulation, reactive attachment disorder. There's a lot of the different things that can happen. One has even got a blood disorder. So you don't know. So make sure financially you're prepared for that. Emotionally as well. Make sure that you and your spouse are emotionally prepared, because these children come, some from a very difficult background. And as they get older and as they start having questions and they start wondering, why was I given up? Why did my birth parents not want me? Then make sure you're emotionally prepared to help them deal with things like that. Now, you are not alone when all this kind of things comes up. There's adoption community all over the country. There are people there that can help you and that can help your children. That's one of the main reasons that I've started this YouTube channel, because I want to help families deal with these kinds of things that we went through because other people helped us. Okay, next question is, what type of adoption do you want? So be thinking before you start the process, kind of have an idea of what you want. Now, if you haven't seen my other videos, I have done 2 other videos, one on the 5 main types of adoption, which are foster care adoption, foster to adopt, infant adoption, that's domestic, family member adoption, like stepchild, grandchild, family member, as well as international. So my other video goes into very detailed explanation of those. So for a more detailed information of those types of adoption, please go and check out my other video. I'll put a link in the description below. Also, to know whether you want open, closed or semi-open adoption. I have a video on that as well. I'll put a link to that down below. Basically, that covers, it's about how close of a contact do you want with the birth family after the adoption. That's basically what those mean. But my other video, I go into the pros and cons of all of that. So check that one out as well. Okay, so once you have an idea of what type of adoption you want, think about, are there any hurdles to us being able to adopt? Some agencies in America, and especially a lot of agencies that work with overseas, a lot of countries have restrictions. So look at, does your age, could that be a hurdle? Like, you know, there are some countries you have to be a certain age before you can start the adoption, or they don't adopt to people over a certain age. Also, you know, if you're single, there are some agencies in America that will adopt to singles. Majority of international countries do not allow singles adoption. There may be some, but look into that. You know, have to do a little extra research to find an agency that will work with single families, but there are agencies. So that would be a hurdle that you would have to look into. Finances, you know, the agencies are going to be asking about your finances. Or are you really deep in debt? That's going to cause a hurdle for you. So look into that. So in your health, you know, are you in good enough health that you can care for another child? So look at those different kinds of hurdles, or anything that might hinder you from being able to go through an adoption. All right, next question is, what age child would you be interested in? So a lot of people want an infant. Now, domestically, you know, that is possible. It is harder, but there are agencies that do infant adoption where you get a baby directly from the hospital, directly from a birth mother. Sometimes they might be a week old, or some as old as 7 weeks. But you go through an agency, they work with a birth mother. Typically the birth mother will choose, so sometimes the wait can be longer. It is more on the expensive side, but you know, I'll talk in another video about costs of adoption. I get uncomfortable kind of talking about cost of adoption, because to me it's not about the money that you spend. But if anyone's interested, I will do a video on that. But so look at, is it an infant that you're looking for? I know that, you know, young couples that have no children, a lot of times that's what they're looking for. Or if you go international, typically you're not going to get an infant if you go international. I think the youngest, you know, might be around 5 months. Our daughter was 11 months old from China when we adopted her, and we adopted a little boy from Taiwan, and he was 3 when we adopted him, but they can come much younger than that. And then we went through foster care and got an infant. He was 4 months old when we first got him, and adopted him at age 2. So, you know, look at that. Are you interested in a sibling group? Is that something you would consider? Or an older child, say an older toddler, or a preteen. You know, talk about it with your spouse. You know, what exactly are you looking for? Some people may not, you know, they want to skip those 2 a.m. feedings and the poopy diapers. You know, they want to skip that stuff and go on to a little bit older child, or skip the potty training and say, well, I'll go on with a little bit older child. You know, that older children are harder to place. So if your heart is open to that, older children and siblings are harder to place. So, you know, look at that. What age is it that you're actually looking for? All right, the next question is, are you open to adopting a child of a different race, a different nationality than you are? That would be whether going to another country. You know, we have 2 children that are a different race from us. One is from Taiwan, one is from China. They're Asian. And then we have a little Caucasian boy. So another thing to consider about different race, if you go domestic, would you consider a mixed race child, or an African American child, or a Hispanic child, or a mix of those? You know, what is it that you would be open to? And also think about, you know, are you prepared to get uncomfortable so they can be comfortable? For what I mean by that is, let's say that you adopt a child from China, like we did, and or if you adopt a child that is mixed Caucasian and African American, or African American Hispanic, or whatever the race is that is different than what you are. If you live in a community that is predominantly your race and you have a child that is a different race than you, think about, is that child going to be just uncomfortable and out of place? Are you willing to maybe move to a community or to a part of, even if it's the same town, to a part of town where your child can feel more comfortable, whether it be a neighborhood or a school that there's more diversity, or a church? Think about that. Are you willing to reach out to the community of your mixed race or a different race child and find mentors for them that can help them to feel good about their heritage? And we learned this the hard way. Our daughter, for a while, was ashamed or embarrassed that she was Chinese. And she had grown up for many, many years in an all-white community. And I didn't have someone to explain all this to me, to tell me that this could be bad for her. So when I started hearing that she was having trouble with that, she didn't want anybody to say she was Chinese. She didn't want anybody to even talk about China. She wouldn't talk or even look at another Chinese person. When I started realizing, oh, this is not good, I've got to do something about this, we got an international exchange student from China that moved into our house for a year. By the time she left, my daughter was proud to be from China. She was proud to be born in China, and she realized that it was okay to be both. It was okay to be Chinese, and it was okay to be American. It was okay to be part of a white family, but still be proud of her Asian heritage. So, make sure you're willing to do that and are prepared for that. Make sure that you're ready for the stares and the questions. You're going to get them. Now, I didn't care what other people thought, but I had to prepare myself to protect my child, to protect my children. When I would get stopped in the grocery store and people would say, "Oh, how much did it cost?" And you would be surprised at some of the questions I got. But, sometimes I had a snarky comment, or when she was really little and didn't understand. At other times, I would try my best to be educational and say, "Oh, you mean my daughter? She was born in China and we adopted her, and now she is part of our family and we love her very much." So, there are other families that can talk to you about things like that as well, but prepare for those things and know that those things might come, and make sure your children understand they don't owe anyone any explanations, and they only have to tell as much as they're comfortable with telling about their story. So know that those things would come up, and just be prepared for those. Don't steer away from adopting outside of your race because of the comments you might get, but be prepared for them. Another question is, are you interested or able to adopt a child with special needs? Now, agencies will give you a list. If you say, "Yes, I would consider special needs," to a certain extent, they will give you a list that will tell you the different kinds of special needs, and you can put a check mark by the ones that you are okay with. So it can go anywhere from, you've got physical special needs, like say a child has got missing limbs, or maybe they can't walk, or maybe they're blind, or maybe they're deaf. So those are some physical things. Medical could be, something internal, like maybe there's a heart problem, or maybe, things like that, things that are medical. Heart problems or kidney issues, lungs, asthma, severe asthma, or different things like that, medical issues. Or then there are things mental as well. So maybe is a child with severe ADHD, or a child with other kind of mental, emotional issues. So you need to think about those things if you are willing, and don't say yes if you are not sure, because this is like I said, this is a commitment for the rest of their life that you got to be prepared for. So, one more thing that I want to talk about is a support group. You got to have one of those, because you can't do this on your own. When we got back from China with our daughter, it was difficult, adjustment and everything, or even before the adoption when you're preparing, it's very emotional. So having a support group in your family, in your church, finding an adoption community that can be there for you while you're going through the process. So before adoption and post-adoption, after the adoption, make sure there are people that you can lean on, that are there to help you, to support you, to get you through the emotional issues, to have somebody to babysit for you every once in a while. So go ahead before, get that support system up and going. So I hope these questions help you to determine whether or not adoption is the right thing for you, if it's something that you are ready to pursue right now. And if you are, I wish you the best of luck. God bless you. Thank you for opening your home to a wonderful child. I'm passionate about it. So I'm going to have some videos coming up in the future about dealing with issues that the child might have when they come home, things that maybe you wouldn't expect, that helping deal with those, or maybe special needs that may come up, how we've dealt with these kinds of things. I'm going to give you some book recommendations to help you prior to the adoption, while you're going through the process, and some books that you can look into and read after the adoption, and some books for kids as well. So please, before you leave, don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell so you'll get any further announcements of any further videos from now. So I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.